Chapter 1, quote, "That's cheating, son. Your opponent's earned a fair trial." Such a stupid quote rings through my ears as I hold the wheel of my Ford F-150 with two hands. My son Gideon's in the passenger seat. He means the world to me. And now that he's about to turn 11, it was time for me to make this journey to a place where my father took me around the same point in my life. The point just in front of the hormonal shift that takes a boy from a creature of exploration and happy blissful play to an aggressive warrior who, even though he's unable to truly understand why he wants the attention of a woman and wants her with everything his body can muster, to the point of severe confusion and rage. My son stands before this window of life now. So it was time. I took him to a place special to my family. Oswego, Kansas. I know what you're thinking. Why of all places on earth would you take a boy there to teach him some of the more important lessons of life? The lessons that take him from ages of minimal or little responsibility to years of maturity, accountability, and dare I say it, manhood. The year was 1999 when my father loaded me into the family vehicle, and he took me from our sleepy suburban household in the middle of the night without my mother or sisters. It was a different kind of journey. We didn't pack anything, or have the usual plethora of creature comforts our normal trips had. Pillows, Game Boys, books, board games, and every snack imaginable. It was just a grown man and his growing son, driving. The radio was turned off, but when it was turned on a CD to avoid the change of stations, or the static that can often be produced. My father was quite partial to Steely Dan, and so I became fast friends with Peg, Ricky, and some guy named Jack, who for some reason didn't know how to leave the casino. We drove all night through the darkness, until the dawn breached the horizon, and showed us the glimmer of heaven that remains upon earth. As the miles wore on, and I drifted from awake to asleep several times, with my father showing zero signs of fatigue, we came to a slowing stop as we pulled into a private property on the outskirts of Oswego, Kansas. Parking the car around 9 a.m. that morning in a strange gravel driveway, far from any place I had ever been to, we emerged. He with a purpose in his step as the clouds of rock dust settled all around us. I was fearful and weary. The property was clean and neat, but it was sort of different from our cul-de-sac. The sound of chickens, the sight of dogs running about without leashes or any concern. This was so foreign to me. The air smelled different. Clean. I remember that like it was this morning's bacon. Out an old man walked with a shotgun in his hand. "Are you lost?" he says with a tone that makes it feel less like a question and more like a prophecy of fate. "John Michael, sit your drunk ass down before you blow a hole in your roof." My father calls out without any true care in the world as to the man's behavior. The old man squinted and lowered his shotgun to the ground. He then put a hand to his forehead to see if he could tell more about his unplanned guests. "Randall Durant, is that you, young man?" The older man called out to my father. It was one of the first times I had heard my father called by his full name. Usually we knew him as Mr. Durant, or Sir, or Father. But to hear his full name felt so odd to me. But somehow hearing his name made me feel safe. My father indicated that it was in fact him that had come to the property. I was still confused as to the purpose of our visit to this remote and strange place. "Here to show your boy as your father Clyde showed you, I suppose." "Well, she's still around back, where you saw her in 1974. I was thrown off by the memory of such a random year by the man. Why does he have such a steel recollection of an event that happened here, from before I was even a glint in the eye of my father? Before I could ponder, my father began moving around the side of the house. It wasn't anything special, a simple ranch-style home that had a barn off from the road of a modest size. Nothing meant for heavy machinery or livestock, but for rudimentary storage. The house had a fresh coat of light blue and white trim, but it didn't hide the age of the structure. The years had done their dance, and while the home had been built upon a solid foundation, one not like the sands of some coastal homes or the cliff of a Hollywood mansion, yet certain settling showed its head, even to my untrained eye of a boy. I walk lightly, even though my father guides me through the tall and unkempt grasses into the treaded pathway behind the home. As we cleared the side of the main house, in the distance, another 50 paces, that was when I saw her for the first time. She stood, nearly 80 feet tall, and was so wide across that my father, with his arms, that felt at that time as the length of the world, could not wrap around its base, even with perhaps 3 of him. The bur oak tree of this property. There she was, large and beautiful, with her leaves green and healthy. Around the base of the tree, there was a small circle of white, large stones, placed and not mortared into their location. There they sat, guarding and hollowing the base of the tree. "Son, this is our family tree, the Durant family tree." The statement confused me. In school, we had spoken of family trees in the past. We spent a week asking our family to explain our lineage and draw out a map from the past, showing the branching and the spread of the past and how, from the people before we came into being. Though, here, my father was telling me the project we completed in school was nothing more than a piece of paper. As now we stood beside this massive, beautiful piece of creation, and my father assured me that this tree was a relic, a part of the Durant family history. I sat in awe. I wanted to know more. There must be more to this tree. My father walked up to the old growth and said his hellos, as if to an old friend he had long since forgotten, and yet never forgotten. "Good to see you again. I've returned, this time with my son, whom I pray one day will return with his son in kind." He pats the bark of the tree, and places his hand upon it with a reverence and tenderness I have only seen him give 2 other objects, my mother and the Bible. "Son, I believe it's time that you understand why I brought you here." My father pointed to a point that was nearly 5 feet off the ground. There was a hammer, not just a simple roofing or framing hammer of maybe 20 ounces, but a sledgehammer that would have weighed somewhere around 10 pounds. This was our estimation, as the hammer was enveloped by the tree, swallowed by the growth and the healing of the tree, but still, now one with the tree. The handle stuck out far, and the metal head was still visible, but barely, as the tree healed around the hammer. I was bewildered at how this happened, and when my father went up to the hammer and slid his hands down the stem of the handle. He touched it and examined it carefully. He beckoned me to come close, and then put me on his shoulders for the first time in several years, and for the final time of his life, to see up close what his eyes saw. Names and years were along the handle. Randall, 1974. Clyde, 1950. Darian, 1937. And the final name, which was carved in the same handwriting as the name Darian, Martin, 1918. Son, these are the names of your ancestors in these lands. The legacy of our line of Durant is here, with this oak tree. I reached out and touched the handle. This to any onlooker would be just the sight of a boy touching a piece of wood stuck in a tree. But I felt powerful. I felt as though with my hands reaching the wood, I was becoming something greater than myself, like I was being called into the next phase of life. I had no clue as to why, but I knew something special happened, and my eyes welled up with watery tears, not of fear or pain, but of pride. Even though I was young, I knew something powerful was happening under the shade of this oak tree, on a random morning. My father sat me down on the ground and proceeded to explain the story of my family and this very oak tree. That story, that legacy is why I'm in this car right now, making a very similar trip with my son Gideon. He groans as he wonders why he wasn't allowed to bring his cell phone or his Nintendo Switch, why we only listened to music on a flash drive, and why he was becoming oddly familiar with the band Savage Garden. But he'll understand. I'm sure of it. For me, this is my chance. My opportunity to impart the truth, and the wisdom, and the mystery, and experience that my father gave to me that transcended all the years of my life. So as we continue, I rehearse the story in my head what my father told me. Perhaps I can get by with far fewer 4- and 6-letter F words. End of chapter.
That was really cool. Like that's like it sounded like the beginning of a movie or or a show or something. Like I thought it was really cool.
Thanks, Matt.
That's all. Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah. So I mean, this thing is, it's a special story to me. I actually wrote it in one sitting, and like I said, you can read it in about an hour or so. Um, it's like I said, it's a story about the ancestry of this person's family, in regards to life lessons, and it's a special one because it started off with a really weird idea and it kind of morphed into something else as I was writing it, when I finally wrote it. That's what I'm trying to say. I guess a lot of times we have ideas that become questions that then become the reason for why you write.
Like what inspired you to write it? Was it like due to some a memory or was it like from a book or a movie? Like what were some influences that led to this?
Yeah. So
Oh, actually, that was a question that was asked too.
yeah,
There you go.
yeah. So this story is both. This is certain elements from the story are exact things that my dad and I did when I was growing up. Um, the trip, when I was younger, my dad took me to go see the Great Sand Dunes and to climb a mountain or two with him when I was 11 years old. We went fishing in a river, and we spent a week out there in Colorado just driving around and visiting random things, and it was a very special part for me in my life. And so parts of that are very much what you're hearing in here. When I'm mentioning Steely Dan, that's literally what my experience was growing up, in a road trip with my dad. We
And
didn't,
Savage Garden is awesome too, by the way.
yeah, and Savage Garden would be who I was actually trying to throw into the rotation. By the way, he vetoed that very often. Um,
Oh man.
well, we all have our personal taste, right? Um, But yeah, so the initial idea for the story is I used to, in college, go out, and if someone was having a bad day, I carried a sledgehammer in my truck for some reason, and we'd go and if someone was having a bad day, we'd go and whack a tree with a sledgehammer. And I always knew there was going to be something that I could turn that into a story with, just hitting a tree with a sledgehammer. And that's kind of what you're seeing here. If you guys saw in the story, there's a part where there's a guy with a sledgehammer. We see the sledgehammer stuck in a tree. And this story is why there's a sledgehammer stuck in that tree. and how it relates to this family.
That's
And
awesome. It's pretty cool.
thanks. Yeah, and like I said, guys, any questions is totally cool. But yeah, with the way the story's told, it's told in a narrated first person by Taylor, who is the current kid, and the current dad who's driving his son Gideon. But the story takes place in three different. It's being told in three different times. So there's three different settings in the story, but they're all in the same place. Um, so believe it or not, I wrote this at a point in time where I really never read much fiction at all. So the answer is Legends of the Fall and A River Runs Through It, which is by Norman MacLean. Um, my dad read the story immediately after I finished it, and he was like, "It very much reminds me of A River Runs Through It." I was very influenced by coming of age stories growing up, so things like Stand By Me, things of that kind of nature, where you have these boys learning how to be men through just
Yeah, it definitely has like a Stand By Me vibe. Yeah.
cool. But yeah, the story's told in three perspectives, where the majority of the story is in the distant past, telling the story of why there's the hammer in the tree. Then there's also events that happen constantly in 1999, where Taylor's a boy experiencing what his dad's talking to him about, as well as, of course, the present time, which is 2024 when the story was written, which is um, Taylor looking at his son and figuring out what's going to happen next, what he wants to do, what he wants to say, how he explains this to his son Gideon. And yeah, like I said, you can read the whole thing in about an hour.
I
Um,
like how like the voice definitely comes like through the writing, like like your background and whatnot. Like it's definitely kind of like on the page. Like you found a way to like channel that, and that's pretty cool. Like it gives the story flavor.
Thanks, I appreciate that. Um, just yeah, it's like there's a lot of things that are involved in here, a lot of feel good moments, um, and I don't go too into detail about certain things because I wanted it to be something that would not beleaguer or beat down readers. So I mean, like I said, the whole entire story was written. I think it's 16,000 words or so, 8 chapters. Oh, and the chapters are named in a way to where they all come from the same album. If you can figure out the album that they're from, I'll give you a high five.
Okay. That's awesome. That's pretty creative. It's got like a literary feel to it too, like the writing. Like you know that like as you continue, there's gonna be some like depth that's gonna be encountered, and there'll be like different meanings to things. Like that's definitely the sense that I got. Yeah, I was intrigued by it.
Thanks. And like I said, if anyone else has any other questions, that's totally cool. And yeah, going forward, we hope to be able to do more of these shows, and we hope to do two things. Like I said, give you a chance, if you're the writer that week, to pop in before and give kind of an introduction if you feel your story needs an introduction. And if not, we will be able to come in afterwards and still answer questions. Yeah. I guess we
Yeah,
get.
and if you're in here and like you haven't had your story read yet and would like to, all you got to do is just find a section. Doesn't have to be like even a chapter. Like find a piece in your writing that's about like 1,500, 2,500 like words long, and just like just DM it over, and we'll put you on the list. The list is shorter now than it used to be, so you don't have to necessarily wait like 2 months to have your story read like before maybe.
It is a Gemcast. It is a Gemcast. We're just near. You think you arrived near the end. I think. Um,
Yeah, so it'll be on YouTube, but like, yeah, you came after he already read the chapter, I think.
I apologize. I guess I went a little faster than normal. But yeah,
It's
guys.
it's definitely worth a listen if you missed it. Definitely worth going to YouTube and hearing it. It was a nice performance.
And thank you for the kind word, Butler. Thank you for the kind word, everybody, as far as enjoying the voices or whatnot. I appreciate it. But that being said, unless we have any other further questions, we'll probably close this up. I see Battle Sloth's typing, and I'll give him until his statement's through if it's a question, and then if not, we'll close it up for the day. And oh, it was actually my chapter, Lucia. Yeah. But thank you guys as all, and we'll close it out for the day. Thank you.